I read 7 books in the month of July. Let's talk about it. Hi friends, welcome back to Pages in Chaos. And yes, I know it's been a while since I did a wrap-up video. I have been so busy, but you know what? I am finally done with school overall. So I'm back to trying to get to a regular schedule. And first up is my wrap up. In the month of July, I did a lot. I participated in Catch Up-a-thon. I had another Unstuff Your TBR with Becky and Lisa and Monica. So I had a pretty successful month in terms of the amount of books I read. However, maybe not so successful in my ratings. And I'm just going to go through them and give you my quick thoughts on what I thought of each one of these books. First up was Rosie A. Point's Little Cozy Mystery here. This is called Murder Among the Stacks. And this was part of my Unstuff Your TBR vlog. And the cursive on the cover was the theme, or cursive in the books. So that's why I picked up this. And I have been obsessed lately with these murder mystery puzzle books. And this came up on a recommendation that would fit that because it is word searches that I was under the impression, as you completed them, would give you clues to the murder and what happened. Unfortunately, it was just not what the case was. There was one towards the end where you had to use all of the clues and they gave you specific ways to get the name of the murderer. But other than that, it was just word searches based on some of the things in the chapter. And each chapter was only a page long. Now, I've read Rosie A. Point, a couple of her cozy mysteries, and they are shorter. So I at least thought there was going to be something to the story part, but it just did not have the same charm as a cozy mystery. It was boring. It was flat. I didn't find any of the characters really charming or connecting with any of them, except for the cat, you know, the little orange cat. So this was just not it for me. I think I gave it 2.5 stars. I mean, it was predictable. It was easy to guess. And it just really wasn't. I was hoping for at least a little bit of a charming cozy mystery. But unfortunately, this was just not what I expected. Now, West with Giraffes also fit the prompt of Unstuff Your TBR. I was supposed to do a buddy read with Krista. This was actually a book that I got from a giveaway from her. I'm sorry, Krista, but it fit a prompt and I had to pick it up. So this is based on true events, and this is from the viewpoint of Woodrow Wilson Nichols and his journey of helping these giraffes that got caught in a terrible hurricane and have to make their way across the country to the San Diego Zoo during the Great Depression. It happens in 1938, so you have the Dust Bowl going from New York or from New Jersey all the way to San Diego. There's just a lot to this, and I was really excited to read this one. However, it fell very flat for me more often than not. There were only a few parts that I found really exciting or just interesting. But other than that, I just felt like I was reading a lot of boring, same old, same old. They make a stop. People are enamored by the giraffes and they move on. And then there's a whole bunch of news articles about updates, and it just wasn't really, nothing was really happening. There were a few events, right? They come across like the circus train and this guy who wants to buy these giraffes and winds up being like a con artist. And, you know, we have a lot of situations that depict animal abuse for the time because, you know, you have to remember what animals were viewed as during this time, especially with the Great Depression. But not enough throughout the entire book to keep me interested. Also, Red, who is the photographer who's trying to make it into National Geographic, who is following them. I didn't find it very believable or really interesting until like towards the end when we find out a little bit about who Red is. And Red is the nickname that Woody gives her. But anyway, it wasn't for me. I did enjoy parts of it. I think I landed on like 3 stars, which was okay for me. Next up was The King of Clubs. This was actually a book that I was supposed to read for the last leg of the Amazing Readathon in June. I finished it in July. Actually, I started it on the last day of June. I knew I wasn't getting through because I fell a little bit behind on that. So I just counted it for July. And The King of Clubs is the 4th book and the last book in the Luck God series by J. Gabriel Gates. I found him on TikTok. I read his first book. I loved it. I bought all the books in the series. I supported one of his Kickstarters where I got special edition hardcovers and a couple of other things with his books. And I really enjoyed this. This is, I can't tell you too much about this book, but this is about these demigods, but the powers are based off of the 4 different card suits. And each one of the card suits has different type of luck powers. And each one of this card suit families is trying to gain power. So think of them like demigod mafia. That's the best way I could think to explain it. And I think I've seen other people explain it as well. I enjoyed this. Overall, I gave this book and most of the books in this series anywhere between 4 and 4.5. I gave this one 4. The only thing that felt a little bit out of place for me was some of the things that were happening throughout the series made me forget that Aggie, who is the main character who becomes a luck god for the heart suits, she is in high school. She is a senior in high school. And some of the things that were happening just don't fit with the fact that she is 17 years old. I think that part would have been a little bit better for me if maybe it was happening, like maybe the start of the book was her senior year of high school and we followed her more through like college. But in fact, all 4 books are really just taking place over her senior year of high school. So that was just one little thing that kept me from rating this entire series as 5 stars. But otherwise, very enjoyable. I liked the different take on the magic system from what I would usually read. Next up are the books that I read for Catch-Up-a-thon. And I struggled a little bit with Catch-Up-a-thon this year. I read 4 books. I DNF'd 1 and I don't think I had a 5 star. But I did enjoy some of the reads, so let's go through them quickly. If you watched my vlog for my Book of the Month Vault / Catch-Up-a-thon vlog, you probably already know my thoughts, but just in case you haven't, I'll give you a quick recap and some of my thoughts on my ratings for this. First up was A Rogue of One's Own. I didn't like this as much as I liked the first one. So this is a companion series, and this is the second book in the League of Extraordinary Women companion series. The first book was Bringing Down the Duke. I really enjoyed that one. This one, not so much. The first half was very boring. I did like seeing Lord Valentine, or Tristan, he is the rogue's storyline, and finding out about his situation. But I was bored up until about 50%. So Lucy is one of the suffragettes, and she acquires part of a publishing house that her and her suffragette group at Oxford are trying to get control over, so they can use the publishing house to publish their pamphlets and their things to get their, ideas and their movement out there. And somehow Lucy gets part of the controlling interest because she unknowingly partners with Tristan, her arch nemesis. How do you not know that you now have a partner? Whatever. Anyway, but I also didn't like that she makes a deal with him to get controlling shares, and I didn't like the deal. It's transactional. But there were a few things that I did enjoy. So I did enjoy the second half. It picked up probably around 50%. And I really enjoyed the fact that this ended not the same way you would expect a typical romance, Regency era historical fiction to end. I liked the ending on this. I also liked reading the historical notes that basically were the inspiration for this. So L.V. Dunmore says that she found letters on what would be going on at the time, and these real letters that she actually found with researching the first book are what she took liberties with to write this story for Lucy. I like that, but overall I would say a 3 star because I enjoyed the second half, but not the best. I don't know if I'm going to continue with the rest of the series though. We'll see. Mad Mabel, I really enjoyed. I landed on like 4 to 4.5 stars on this. This is by Sally Hepworth, and supposedly this is a little bit of a different take from what Sally Hepworth usually writes. This was a suspense about Elsie Mabel, and it's taking place over 2 timelines. So she's 81 years old, and she is caught up in the gossip of something that happens when one of her neighbors turns up dead. And because everyone in the neighborhood knows that she is Mad Mabel, who was the first ever convicted teen in Australia for murder, there's gossip. There's this little girl, Persephone, who comes into the picture, who has attached herself to Elsie, or Mad Mabel. Mabel's her middle name. And her story is heartbreaking. Mabel's story is so heartbreaking. Her childhood story, we go through all of these different scenarios. Her father is so vile. Her mother is very troubled. She has this Aunt Cess, who is going to protect her at any cost. And my heart broke for childhood Mabel. So as far as the ending of this, there were some twists. There was a couple of things that I did not expect, but I wasn't surprised, and overall, I really enjoyed this. I also read The Philosopher's Flight. I did give this one 4 stars as well, and I really enjoyed this one. This is a big old genre blend of science fiction, historical fiction, some fantasy, and this is about Robert Weeks, who is he's one of the few men who practices empirical philosophy, and that's the fantasy part. And he wants to become the evacuation medic, the U.S. Artillery Corps Rescue and Evacuation Department, which is the elite team of flying medics that will help evacuate in situations where they're needed. The medics are needed, the evacs are needed, things like that. Problem is, it's only for women. So he winds up going to this all-women's college to learn how to do this and become certified and doing this. And I absolutely loved the take of this because this takes place in 1910s America. So it is a twist and a gender bending of the fact that women weren't allowed to do things at that time, and now we have men in that situation. We have 2 different sides. We have the fanatical side who wants to get rid of everybody that practices empirical philosophy. Think about what it really was like in the 1910s, all of the morality and the religion people, the religious people who want to just, go back to the old times, especially as we get into World War I and a whole bunch of historical connections. I think they made connections to like the Filipino War. It was just a lot of things that come together, and I feel like it was so fun to go through. Then you have the fanatics on the other side, the empirical philosophers who are going to be part of the resistance and do everything to make sure that they are not targeted. And I just love the back and forth of this. I love the ideas of twisting these things, but still taking a lot of the historical elements. There was a lot of historical notes about what actually was taken with liberties and things like that. So I just really enjoyed this overall. There is a second book, The Philosopher's War, and based off of where this left off, I am actually interested in seeing where that turns up, especially because of some of the characters, like Danielle, who is the female and love interest or, romantic interest of Robert in here. And I want to see where she turns up. So there's just so much about this that I want to see resolved, and I am going to pick up the second book. So I landed on 4 stars with this. Silver Elite was the most recent book that I read, and I landed on 3 stars. It was okay. Was it the best thing ever? No. Was it the worst thing ever? No. I'm going to take it for what it was. It's listed as a dystopian romance. It was trying to be dystopian. I don't think it fully fulfilled that genre. It fell flat. Maybe the second book is a lot more than the first book, and this was kind of just setting up the scene, which I did feel like a lot of this was setting the scene. I enjoyed some parts of this. Ren's character is a little all over the place and inconsistent because, and I get why. So she is thrown into this training for the Silver Elite, who is the enemy of her because she is what's called modified. She's this psychic abilities, but she has very powerful abilities, and she is the target of the government because they want to eliminate all of these unpure mods for having their powers. And she lands herself in this situation where she pretty much has to prove that she is not for the uprising and not one of these people, and she's just an ordinary person. So she gets thrown into this training program for the Silver Block or the Silver Elite. It's not until 50% in, or maybe even a little bit more, that we actually get the fact that she is going to help the uprising from within, which is what it says that she's planning on doing in the synopsis. So that took way longer than expected. Also, there's a lot of characters, but not a lot of character development. The main male love interest, Cross Redding, the one that she's supposed to be falling for, he has no personality other than being this captain and this person who is so against the mods and arresting them and interrogating them and enslaving them. I don't see any reason why, other than the physical attraction, why Ren is attracted to him. There is nothing in there about his personality, what makes him so likable, because he is not likable. And I did not like that at all. It was just a purely physical attraction. We do get a little bit of a twist later on that does not line up, though, with anything that we see in the first, 70% of this book. And then I also don't see any development of why he's so interested in Ren. Again, other than the physical. So, it fell flat for me on there. But overall, it was okay. It was enjoyable. I did like a lot of the characters, but you also have to remember the internal struggle that Ren is having because she is part of the training program for the enemy. So all these people that she's making friends with, that she is trying to basically justify that they're not as bad as they seem. And then she says, no, wait, they actually are, because if they actually knew who I was, they would totally be out for my blood. So she has that internal struggle. She has to keep reminding herself that these people are not good people because of what they stand for and what they believe in. And then, of course, we have the opposite side, the uprising, and are they really as good as they seem? So that's where the dystopian comes in, and that's where I kind of get the Hunger Games reference. That it says that this is supposed to be like spicy Hunger Games. However, it is far from that. And I feel like it fell a little flat. Maybe the second book, I think this is going to be a trilogy, will make up for that and have a little bit more development in terms of this dystopian idea and the two sides and is it really what it seems and things like that. I think I'll pick up the second book. I am not going to buy it. I will probably just get it from the library. But overall, I would say 3 stars. It was enjoyable enough. And the last book, the DNF, Spinning Silver, made it 200 pages in and was bored out of my mind. And I was struggling whether or not I should DNF this because so many reviews said it gets better and it's so much more exciting after the first half. But in my opinion, if I have to wait that long and I'm bored and I don't want to waste my time. So I DNF'd it. There were so many different things that just didn't make sense. And yeah, I get it. I probably would have just kept reading and it would have made sense. But it was just too confusing and too far gone for me to be able to get to that point. I also did not like when I was listening on audio, you couldn't figure out that there was a switch in point of view really until you get a few lines or a few, maybe even a paragraph in and you realize, oh wait, we're in a different time, a different point of view, a different person's mind. The magic system. So there were too many different storylines, too many different pathways, and I just wanted it all to come together a little bit sooner, and it just didn't happen. So this wound up being a DNF. Well, there you have it. Those are all the books that I read in July. Let me know down in the comments your thoughts. Did I miss the mark? Do you feel the same way I did? What have you read? Especially Spinning Silver. If you read Spinning Silver and you completed it, I want to know if I am totally off the mark and totally against the grain when it comes to the reviews, or if I am kind of valid in my feelings. And if you just want to let me know you're here but you're a little too shy to comment, then leave me some sort of bird emoji down in the comments. Well, that's all I have for now. Bye!